It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach, man. I got a bunch of questions lined up to answer today. Our first question comes from Mata Bromas, all the way from Colombia. He says, I have a question for you. Do you think that Chuck Norris could have won UFC 1? Back in 1993. I know this seems like a meme question, but think about it. Chuck had a black belt in Taekwondo, Karate, Judo. He trained with Bruce Lee and Van Damme, and by the 90s he was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And in his demos with the Machados, he seems pretty cool. So he was a very complete martial artist by that time. So what do you think? Saludos desde Colombia. All right, saludos back to you too, my friend. Chuck Norris back in 1993 would have been 53 years old, I believe. He was born in 1940. He's 82 years old now, I think. So yeah, back in 1993 when UFC 1 came out, he would have been 53. And man, as tough as Chuck was, that's kind of a big factor. But imagine for a minute, what if Chuck Norris did compete in UFC 1? What if he won UFC 1? Imagine the Chuck Norris jokes. Imagine the caliber of the Chuck Norris jokes that we would get today if that did happen. Maybe the Chuck Norris jokes would have just stopped and people would have just dropped their jaws and been like, oh, man. I don't know, that would be interesting. But 53-year-old Chuck Norris, with his background in judo, karate, a functional understanding of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at that time in the 90s. He was training with the Machados back then. Chuck today is he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I forget which specific degree, third, fourth, something like that. Pretty high-level Jiu-Jitsu guy today. He never stopped learning martial arts, man. Chuck is inspiring. He's an inspiring dude in his 80s. I follow him on social media. He's still training. He's still getting out there and training. Whenever he can, man. Very inspirational dude. Love that guy, Chuck Norris. Great example of what a martial artist can and should be, but would he have won? Okay, let's just switch Chuck Norris in with... Just change him out with Royce Gracie. Royce in UFC 1 first he fought Art Jimerson, the boxer. Art went in there with one glove, not really knowing what to expect. And Art was a professional boxer. I didn't follow his career, but he was a pro. He had a fight coming up, which is one of those reasons why he specifically asked to wear a glove on his right hand, because he didn't want to injure it. How would that have gone down? Now, what did Royce do? Royce shot in for a double leg, and Royce was not a great wrestler. He was very, very good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At that time, I think he was third, maybe fourth degree black belt, don't remember, but high-level Jiu-Jitsu. But his wrestling, as in his takedowns, his shots, all that stuff, wasn't particularly good, but didn't matter because Art Jimerson had zero wrestling at the time, and so even, Royce's 1993 version of wrestling was good enough. How good was Chuck's? Well, Chuck, as you mentioned, was a black belt in judo. He did train with Machados. He was not ignorant of these things. Could he have done the same? Yeah, he probably could have. And understanding the situation, maybe he would have. Maybe he would have, fallen back on his karate, taekwondo, tang sudo training and tried to kick Art Jimerson to death. Don't know how that would have gone, but Royce finished that first round pretty much fresh, with zero injuries and very little fatigue. Because he got to mount, and out of panic, Art Jimerson tapped out, not knowing what else to do. Probably a smart thing on his part. After all, he did have that fight coming up. Who did Royce fight next? Man, I don't remember. It was an 8-man tournament. But the thing with tournaments like that, those old school UFC tournaments, the strategy to win wasn't just about how good your technique is. It's about how good your game plan is and how good the luck of the draw is so that you don't spend yourself physically and you don't sustain injuries. And Royce did a pretty good job of doing that. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu against strikers is an excellent way to avoid damage. So if Royce had if Chuck had used a similar strategy to what Royce was able to implement, really, really rudimentary jiu-jitsu techniques, to be honest, could he have done the same? Maybe. I think the big sticking point here would have been Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was by far the best athlete in UFC 1. By far. And the dude knew how to wrestle. He did. Royce did catch him with, wrapped the gi, the lapel around his neck and choked out Ken Shamrock. But the dude was a physical specimen. And, oh man, would have given 53-year-old Chuck Norris a serious run for his money. Would Chuck have been able to win that fight? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. But if he did, imagine the Chuck Norris jokes. I'm going to leave you with a Chuck Norris joke, my favorite one, to end out this video. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is based on a true story. Chuck Norris once swallowed a turtle whole, and when he pooped it out, it was 6 feet tall, and it knew karate. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train. Brought to you by xmartial.com. Use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything. That's xmartial.com. High quality training gear and fight apparel.